Hello, this is Dan Pro. Welcome to my rigging channel. We're in part 8 of my facial rigging tutorial series. In this tutorial, we're going to add a few extra bones to control the mouth. By the end of this tutorial, we will have nearly all of the mouth controls necessary for creating good lip sync. So that's something to look forward to. There's a number of things we need to get to, and this is going to be a longer tutorial, so I apologize for that, because there's going to be quite a bit of work involved in this. So the first thing I want to do is to add to our jaw rig or our mouth sealing rig from the last tutorial. Now, what I'm going to need are 4 extra bones, and I've went ahead and added those 4 bones. Now we're going to have an upper lip bone, a lower lip bone, and a mouth corner for the right and the left. Now these upper and lower lip bones, you might think that they are redundant because we have an upper lip bone already for our mouth sealing rig. But remember, this is using a deformation bone in order to get the deformations of this upper lip, and what this bone is going to do is we're going to use this to drive Shapekeys. So the rest of this rig is all going to be done with Shapekeys, or at least part of the mouth here. I'm going to rotate this down. Now let's go through the parenting very quickly. For this new top lip bone, I've just simply parented it to the upper lip bone from the last tutorial, and I've also went ahead and added a custom shape for that last bone. For the bottom lip, I have parented it to the lower lip. Now for the mouth corners, I've added a new mechanism bone here. If I turn on the mechanism layer here and rotate this mouth open with the jaw, if you remember the last tutorial, I have an upper lip parent and a lower lip parent. So the upper lip parent is parented to this. The lower lip is parented to this. Now I have a center mid-lip mechanism bone, and what that is doing basically is first it is copying the transforms of the lower lip parent. So if I just turn this one off, it's copying it at a rate of 100%, and next this other copy transforms is simply copying the transforms of the upper lip, but not at 100%, at only 50%, and this in this way is keeping this bone always directly in between these two. So whatever we do with our mouth jaw rig, and whatever value we add to our mouth seal from the last tutorial, that center bone is always going to be directly in the center of the upper lip and lower lip parent, and that is going to give us a good spot to parent our parent the right and left mouth corner bones. And that's just going to help the animator keep those bones always at the center of the mouth there. So once we've parented those to our new mechanism bone, let's get rid of our mechanism layer and also the upper and lower lip bones from the last tutorial. We can concentrate on creating shape keys and drivers for those shape keys using the transforms and the local transforms of these bones. So something I want to mention here is these mouth corner bones are actually kind of cocked sideways a little bit because I'm going to use the local x-axis to drive these shape keys. The reason I've kind of cocked them sideways is because that's going to make them line up with my shape keys here. So I have a mouth wide .L shape key. If I turn this on, and then I take this bone and drag it over on the x-axis to about 0.04, that's going to be about the same position of that shape key. Now, a little bit of planning is needed here. So what we're going to do, let me just get rid of this shape key or turn the value off. When the x location value is at 0, I want the value of mouth wide.L to be 0. When the x location of our mouth wide.L bone is at 0.04, I want the value of my shape key to be 1. So keep those values in mind. Let's add our driver to our shape key value. Add driver, create later single. And then I'm going to copy the name of the mouth corner.L bone just to make it easier to paste that into our driver. Let's go to our drivers tab. I've set this up in previous tutorials, so we need to select the mesh because that has the shape keys on it and that has our driver on it. For our driver to show up, next we can select it over here, mouthwide.L. We're going to go to our drivers tab, use the scripted expression. It's simply going to be equal to a single variable, and this variable called var is going to be a transform channel type of variable located on our armature. and located on the mouth corner.l bone, we want the X location. By default, it should be set to X location already. That is right here, the type. And the space that we want is the local space of that bone. Now, by default, Blender is going to give us two keyframes, one at 0, 0, and one at 1 and 1. So basically what this means is, with this scripted expression, we would actually have to move this bone all the way to x1 in order to turn on this shape key to 1. So you see it's a 1-to-1 ratio right now because this bone is at 0.04, the shape key is at 0.04 as well. Now we can actually change this by directly changing the values of these keyframes. Now the first keyframe, if I select this one and go to the F curves and look under active keyframe, when X is at 0, we want the value of our shape key to be 0. So this is fine. But this other keyframe up here, when we want the X local location of our bone at 0.04, that is when we want the value of our shape key to be 1.0. So we can just directly type this value in there, and you'll notice that this shape key moved over here. If I go back to drivers, update dependencies, you'll notice that that updated this driver. And now Alt G, X0, our mouth wide is at 0. If we do GXX, drag this to 0.04, now this is at 1. So it's that simple. Let's take this driver and copy it, and let's do the mouth narrow.l. I'm going to paste it over here. Now we just need some different, actually let me delete that really quick. Let's do a little pre-planning here. So if I take this mouth corner, GXX, and go from 0 to negative 0.25, then I want to turn on this mouth narrow value to 1.0. Let's turn this on, paste in our new driver, or paste in the driver from the last one, select it so it shows up over here. I'm just going to click off the eye icon here. Next we just need to change our keyframes again. So again we're using mouthcorner.l, the X location, but our values are changed here. So this first keyframe can stay the same. When it's zeroed out, we want the value 0. On this one, when it goes to negative 0.025, we want the value to be 1 on our shape key. Update dependencies, and now we've got mouth wide and mouth narrow available on the x-axis of this bone. One additional thing I want to cover here, if we go back to the default view here, is a quick way to copy these to the right side. So I'm going to copy the mouthwide.l, copy the driver, and paste it to mouthwide.r. But for this driver, what I need to do, go back to my drivers panel, select mouthwide.r, is just change the bone that I'm using from mouthcorner.l to mouthcorner.r. Of course, we are using the X location, but here's a little bit of a tricky thing here. You'll notice when we change the X location of this one to GXX to drag it back, we are getting a positive value, but on this bone, if I do GXX, when I drag this back, it's going to a negative value. So actually if I go negative, it's going to turn that shape key on. So GXX. Now what we could do is simply take the value of this top keyframe and change this to negative 0.04. But an easier way to do this is simply to change our scripted expression from var to negative var. And that's going to take any positive values and change them to negative, and any negative values to change them to positive. Update dependencies, GXX. Now when we go in reverse on this right side, it's going to turn on that keyframe to 1.0 once we reach negative 0.04. Again, we can do this. I'm going to select mouth narrow.l, copy the driver, paste it to mouth narrow.r, select this, change the bone that we want to use as a driver to .r, change our scripted expression to negative var, update the dependencies, and now we should be able to turn on mouth narrow and mouth wide. So that is location types of drivers. A little bit different is the scale drivers. And the reason for that is scale doesn't start at 0, it starts at 1. So if I rotate this mouth open a little bit, I have a mouth corner compress.L. So I want to use a different transform channel in order to drive that. So when the local Z scale is at 1, I want the value of mouth corner compress.L to be 0. And when I scale this on the local Z axis down to 0.5, I want this to go to a value of 1. Alright, so let's add our driver. Create later single. We're still going to use the mouth corner.L. We're just going to use a different transform channel. Go back to our driver panel. Select our mesh. Select mouth corner compress.L. Script expression is var. Transform channel type of variable located in our armature. We're using the mouth corner.L bone. This time though we are using the Z scale, and we're using the local space of that Z scale. So for this keyframe, the one that's at 0 and 0, if we go to our F curves tab here, when it's unscaled, we want this value to be unscaled, a value of 1.0. We want the value of our keyframe to be 0. And if we select the other keyframe, when we scale this down to 0.5, we want the value of our keyframe, or excuse me, shape key to be 1.0. Update dependencies, and now when I scale this on the local Z axis, we should be able to enable or disable this compression for this mouth corner. Now the last one that I would like to show is a rotational keyframe, and I think this is the one that's going to throw most people, because Blender does not use degrees when it calculates rotations. It uses radians. So if I take this top lip control and do RXX -45, and you can see this, should be able to see this up here, -45. I want to enable this lip roll out to a value of 1. And this makes the lips purse out. Let's add our driver. Create later single. I'm going to drive that with the top lip bone, Control C. Go to my driver panel. Select my mesh. Select lip upper roll out. So again, script expression is going to be a single variable. That variable is a transform channel located on our armature. This time we're using the top lip bone. The transform channel that we're using in this case is the X rotation, and we want the local space of that X rotation. Now you don't need to know what radians are in order to set these values here. Now, you'll notice that we have in parentheses -45 degrees. That is because I rotated that top lip to -45 degrees, but the values we want to input on our keyframes is this value over here, and this is -45 degrees in radians. So if you just remember this number, -0.785, that is 45 degrees in radians, then we can input this on our keyframes over here. So when it's unrotated, we want the value to be 0, but when we rotate it to -45 degrees or -0.785 radians, we want the value of our keyframe to be, or shape key rather, if I stop saying keyframes, say shape key, we want that value to be 0 or 1. Update dependencies, and now we should be able to drive our shape key with our rotation. Let me just add another one. Let me copy this one here. Copy this driver and paste it to the lip roll in, because I'm going to use, when I rotate this to a positive 45, I want that to be enabled. So I can just go -R on this one. Update the dependencies, and that should drive that. Let me go back to default view here. So I've got lip roll out, lip roll in, and this allows you to tuck your lip into your teeth there, or purse it. And this combination of lip roll out and compression is what's needed to make your pucker faces. And I don't have the other side done here. So I'll just keep rinsing and repeating these drivers for all of my shape keys, and I've already gone ahead and finished everything here. So I went ahead and added some custom shapes for my new bones, and now I have pretty much everything I could ever need for lip sync animation. So when I open this up, I've added for my top lip, a shape key to lift the lip up, a shape key to drag it down. I can also drag it out on the y-axis to pull the lip out, or rotate it on the x-axis in or out for pursing the lips or rolling it underneath the teeth. The same thing with the lower lip, G, Z, Z, up, down, Y, out, roll on the X. And for the mouth corners, I have the GXX for mouth wide and mouth narrow. I also have GZ for the smile and frown, or mouth corner up and mouth corner down. And you'll notice that I can kind of change this around here and get any combination in between. And then of course I have the scaling axis on the Z to get the mouth compression combination here. If we roll these outward and then copy this to the other side, there. Of course then we have our jaw control as well. Want to reduce some of that compression probably as we close our mouth. And there you have it. That is a pretty simple mouth rig done with shape keys, although there are quite a few shape keys, as you can tell. I've got mouth wide, left, right, narrow, mouth corner up, mouth corner down, and well, I've actually went through them already. So just keep in mind, this is going to take you a while. So I hope these tips help. Until next time, good luck.